Hey, yeah, it's Puueds, and I can't do this anymore! Creating takes too much time. I need multiple people to band together to make the best level that Geometry Dash has ever seen, and I upload it for free. But I have to start somewhere, as I've only got myself. I gotta start recruiting people for a team, so I went a bit ahead and prepared this. It's accurate, but I really hope it sends the right message. Creator teams in Geometry Dash are a group of creators getting together to make levels under a name. They're pretty cool, and there's a lot of them, like... God, I love the creator team economy. If you've been around the block, you'll know that they're responsible for some of the most historic or well-known levels in the game's history. Think of TM2's The Hell Factory, A Bizarre Phantasm, Artificial Ideology, or Cherry Team's Cosmos, and many other projects, or Geo World's entire catalogue. Hell, they can range from a completely casual group with a few guidelines and expectations to having professional level making process. There's a sort of blurred line between creator teams and just a group of people who want to collaborate multiple times. Sometimes they act like a team but don't consider themselves as such. Other times they might act more like clans, and the rest might just bamboozle you. Wow, this RobTopArchiver guy has been pretty quick to releasing levels. Wait a minute. Oh, they just did identity fraud. Wait, isn't that illegal in Australia? So for today, let's jump into creator teams. There's a lot of things to talk about, like how they still thrive to this day and how they impact the game. The economy is thriving, so we don't want to miss our chance. I think we can start with the most infamous and classic one, Geo World, or more commonly abbreviated as GW. Geo World is a Korean clan rather than a team, and it was founded by a few months after Geometry Dash's release. It's a South Korean forum on Naver that's still pretty active to this day. But when someone talks about Geo World, they mostly refer to the time when it had a ton of creators actively building in 2013 to 2014. A few notable creators and players who were in Geo World, to name a few, were Andromeda, Funny Game, Dorabe, Nubis, Majako, Son0924, and Mugi1411. Hell, some of these people are still active to this day. Funnily enough, Andromeda is from the UK, so how did he end up there? He might have done a cheeky little... There's a lot of history on Geo World, though you really have to look for it sometimes. They've done a lot of things like making the Alphabet series in 1.6 or the Country series, and they are really just a huge part of the game's early history. What Geo World is really well known for is for their Element series. The premise was that any participating creator can make and name a level to an element of the periodic table. There weren't really any rules, no required difficulty or length or theme. As long as you name it after an element, it was part of the series. If you put like 50 blocks together to say nice and named it Element 69TM, and that's all you did? Yes, that would actually count. About 25 or more so creators were involved in the series, and there's 118 elements to the periodic table, which means that every creator would have to make about 5 to complete the entire table. And unfortunately, but expectedly, the series fell apart with only a handful of levels still being on the servers, and some deleted though have been luckily backed up, but the rest were just never finished. Some of these levels are really cool for the time. Arco's Element 1 level is really well made, but the gameplay looks like I'd start crying every 3 seconds while playing. One of my personal favorites from this series is Element 74LA by Experienced D and Arco. This shitpot has some damn clean structuring, and it's genuinely challenging to play. Unfortunately, it got the wrong symbol for the element. The actual symbol is W, which is tungsten. So that's what they mean when they're saying it a lot. Wow, I guess they really like tungsten. If you've been around in this community or have seen videos about this level, then you would know what I mean when I mentioned Element 111 RG by Photo Ring or Dark X. This was a nearly impossible level at the time that got flack from the Korean community for being verified illegitimately. He verified it through a clever secret way where you have to keep jumping on the corner of these blocks, just barely missing the spikes. Honestly, to be fair, when there was no rule on difficulty, something like this was bound to happen. Dark X deleted the level, and as of right now, there's no full copy of it unfortunately. It has a ton of history to it, so if you want more info on that, then I recommend watching Stormfly's video on the level. They have gone to great lengths to trying to recover it, and it's really interesting. Nowadays, there are many spoofs of the series of levels being supposedly made with the GW clan. GW Milky Way by Doc Norris comes to mind. They really upgraded from elements to space. I ain't complaining though, because this level is pretty neat. Now that we discussed Geo World, let's move on from one South Korean team to another South Korean team, with some of the same members in it. If you're around in 1.9 to 2.0 or have been extensively beating Extreme Demon levels on the list, you might know Team N2. TM2 was a really popular team back in the day, established by Rebel in March 2015. It had Zenthik Alpha, Koreaka, Cyclic, Woogie1411, Ryan LC, and many more, as well as Powerbomb who was Italian, and Nobleboy who was Dutch. The Nederlandse infiltrate workte. I consigli italiano. They only released 3 levels, which are the Hell Factory, a Bizarre Phantasm, and Artificial Ideology, and those 3 levels had a huge impact on the community at the time. Like some of the 2.0 stuff I saw back then was just based on what they did. A good chance that the reason they blew up was the scale and later recognizability of their projects. Not only were there extreme demons at a time when there weren't too many of them, they had the scale, polished, and recognizable Korean creator lineup that would really catch your eye. Not many levels at the time reached the level they did. The Hell Factory struggled with getting off the ground. It was started in March 2015 as a solo by a Rebel, but made it the first collaboration of the team. The level itself came out a bit rough at times, but overall there's some real iconic parts like Ryan LC's maze, Woogie's entire part, and, well, basically the entirety of the pre-drop. Those have parts I'm going to never forget even if I tried. A Bizarre Phantasm ups the ante and looks even more cool than the previous level. The last key part has quite the influence on levels today, such as Out of the Blade and Limbo. Also, this door part is so weird it has a tutorial video by Stormfly on it. And for Artificial Ideology, it's a good level and it's a nice send-off for the team. But that wasn't supposed to be the send-off, however, because the disbandment was pretty unfortunate. There was a server hacking incident in early 2017 that changed their name to Hacked by Auroras. It wasn't Auroras who did this, it was Team Hacks, which is a topic that you can explore under Stormfly's video again. It was a huge deal back then and I wasn't that present in the community to witness how bad it was, but it killed a lot of history and accounts that we won't get back. That didn't kill the team, but what happened next did. They actually had a 4th and final level called Master Spark, but thanks to this it never got done. However, it is still actually being worked on, 8 years later. Initially hosted by TM2, then it was passed off to Akira Kurisu, and now Skelly, which you can see on his YouTube. So far, it's looking pretty good while retaining the old polish and scale that they had before. I really hope this gets done. Do you remember Team Smokeweed? They made Galactic Fragility, which was known to be one of the buggiest levels in 1.9, and it still is. It looks good, but how did this get past playtesting? There was a sequel to it called Galactic Shift a few years back, and it's just alright. What I don't get though is their other levels. Deliberate Oblivion was apparently the intended sequel to Galactic Fragility, but I don't see it other than both levels misspelling a word in their name, and Triple K, which I don't really want to show this, and I'm baffled at how the team was down to build to this theme.
I must be smoking that Zaza ass shit, bruh.
They also had an abandoned YouTube channel which has 2 videos from 9 years ago. This team has one weird history and their best level doesn't even set a high bar. Team Dashcrafted is a small team from way back and their YouTube channel is quite cute. They got a few levels of their own, but they surprisingly showcase other creators' levels and uploaded some fun miscellaneous videos. I'm glad to see that they're showcasing RobTop's Hexagon Force with all 3 coins collected. Hey, in 2014 he might have needed all the help he can get with word of mouth. There's Geo World, which I haven't found much on, but does indeed exist through a mention on the GD forums, Hexagon Dashers, Interstellar Geometricans, which had Tigress Sec, Jelt, X-Star7, and Dream Eater. Team Geo creators, which they made 1 level in 2.0, and not only that, tons of extremely small teams that you can find posted out on GD forums, Reddit, and Facebook. Ah yes, the perfect place to find GD players, the same place that holds people like this. So what about the more recent teams from 2.0 to 2.1? Well, there's even more of them, and at some point I'm just going to have to talk about all of them very briefly, because if I tried to go into all of them, we would be here for 40 minutes. The creator team economy is really thriving. Maybe a bit too much. Do you know Yadagarasu? The bird? Okay, do you know Jajagarasu?
Oh yes, I got it! This one!
Manic648 was a really popular creator in this era, and it makes sense for him to be part of a creator team. The team he was part of was called Pleb Kingdom, which the name actually played a role in the creation of my name, believe it or not. They made 4 levels, Jajagarasu, which is a funny parody of Yadagarasu, Ultraviolet, which is a funny parody of Ultraviolet, Ultra Sans, which is a funny parody of Ultrasonic, and Fusion Z, which is a good looking but more unfortunate demake of Molten Gear, which was the first intended 3-core. Then itself is its own thing, which I don't really want to get into for now. They all play pretty well, and Ultra Sans is my favorite for just how much it stands on its own, even as a remake. The combination of Sans and Ultrasonic will still not make sense to me, but it is pretty funny. Team Uprising is another team. They released levels like To the Core, Digital Entropy, and Virtual Collapse, along with a few other earlier levels. They released their last project last year called Mayor Maze. It's a very neat level that you can tell everyone had a really keen eye for quality. I think this might be their last level, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is, it's a good send-off. You may recognize Team Proxima. They made tons of levels such as Omicron, Epsilon, Satori, Scorpius, Betelgeuse, I think I pronounced that terribly, Polaris, Acropolaris, and Arcturus, not that one. All these levels are named after stars, which is quite neat. They also renamed themselves after a sans serif typeface called Proxima Nova, an interesting move. Team Liquefy is pretty cool. They made Celestial Inertia, Crystal Tokyo, and Loveless, plus they got a few layouts too. though I will say I do miss the dedicated YouTube channels for creator teams. It makes figuring out what teams did much more easier. Speaking of, Team Zero has an actual channel and is a team that's established on July 5th, 2019, but all their videos are uploaded in 2013 to 2014. They made levels like Swell, Pirouette, which look fantastic. They also have 10 other billion levels under their belt. Epic Cats is a team organized by Felix from 2.0 to 2.1, and all their songs used are themed around cat dubstep. If dubstep needed to make a comeback, they should definitely take inspiration from this. They made Cat's Rise, Space Meow, Cosmo Cat, Convergence, Divergence, and Demon Cat, which is a pretty sizable collection and especially at a pretty decent quality. If you were around, Valor and Mystic were both old mega collabs that stuck a chord despite their relatively okay quality. This was because of Pokemon Go at the time. This was made by an actual team, but it doesn't really have a name. For convenience sake, let's just call it Team Pokemon Go.
I will proceed to not use this team name afterwards.
I really enjoyed these levels despite being bad at the game. It has spawned that one Clubstep monster meme thanks to Jonathan GD. The two levels were released back in 2016 and 2017. Instinct, which follows the last team that Pokemon Go had, released in 2023. There are two versions of this level, somehow. The official one by It's Hybrid and the spin-off by Disbelief, both of which look actually really good. A really weird thing about this is that both versions have Chromal's part and the spin-off still syncs with it. Well, if it works, it works. If I put these two parts together without any music, could you tell which level it's from?
This one has more eyebrows than this one.
Around that time, there was a boom in fleshing out your gameplay style, as what else could you do for 7 years waiting for 2.2? There was a bit of it in 2.0, but it really exploded in 2.1 to the point that there are gameplay and layout creating teams. The most prominent example I can think of is Overture. They have so many mega collabs. It's a team or a clan or a community. Honestly, I don't really know at this point. That is really popular and it's really cool in my opinion. A few of my friends are in it and they are seriously skilled in the craft of impressive and mechanically deep layouts. They have a public Discord server of more than 2,000 members. They do have a team element, but it's a small portion of the server. You can't just join it to show off your layouts. If you wanted to technically count as a team, it would be the biggest one in Geometry Dash. It acts more like a clan, much like of Geo World. The similarities between the Korean forums and the Discord server are pretty close, and since anyone could join, I'd personally say it's a clan. To join the actual Overture team, you go through a sort of ranking system and you need to apply to join collab, which is both typical and also non-typical. There wouldn't be stated rankings of how good you are at creating within the team. There's roles such as Good Layout Creator, Amazing Layout Creator, Incredible Layout Creator, and Incredible Layout Creator Legacy. If they take suggestions, can there be a relatively okay Layout Creator role? Vocaloid Inc. is another cool team that builds the layouts, except this time it's the Vocaloid songs. They recently released their first layout and it's pretty cool. Like goddamn, Rakuzi's part is really nice that alludes to the color scheme used in the song video by Yukapi. Gordito XD is another highlight of the back and forth black blocks and it adds a lot to the energy and mechanical depth of the part. Carmine No One Eve Fence parts are just genuinely a vibe. That's not to say the other parts are up to par, they're all pretty awesome. I hope to see more projects from you guys. Okay, we've reached the point where I have to just start listing off because oh my god, there are so many. Team Helix, Void Squad, TSC, Team LM, Cheese Forest 7, Team Meridian, The Warehouse, Team Scuffed, Avalanche Team, Team Peach, Zavians, Marfa, and Scavengers. It's actually amazing how many there are just right now, and I'm very sure I missed like 20 of you guys. If you are a part of one and I haven't mentioned it, feel free to say it below. You might not expect this one, but if you know them, it makes total sense. The Restoration Union is a team dedicated to restoring long lost levels and finding any neat trivia about levels as far as back as to the game's first version. If you check their Twitter, they're pretty active and they documented levels such as Dorobay is Sad by Dorobay, Sex by SpongeBob, and of course Element 111 RG. Recently they got a hold of a 1.0 play's save file and it's super interesting that this happened in the first place. They found Sex by HDHHDD. This must be the sequel to Sex by SpongeBob. The rest of it is checking out the save file's saved levels and you should check it out yourself, it's really cool.
Have you ever heard of Joe Brown?
I mentioned him about 15 minutes ago, but he released levels almost every day at one point. He made an account on June 24th, 2020, and soon enough he was already uploading levels. Think of 314, 519, 265, 358, and 979. Weird names, but bangers nonetheless. I will say some of the levels look pretty similar to what Polk and Hype of 314 would make. Either he's pretty good at recreating styles, or...
I'm surprised this Joe Brown guy has been making so many levels in such a short amount of time. Wait a minute, this isn't one person! It's 17 of them!
Yes, funnily enough, they're creating teams dedicated to impersonating a person. This team consisted of Hyper314, Puck, Alkali, and Zero to name a few. They went all in trying to pass this off as a real person, even with people starting to become skeptical of it. They even made an entire character sheet of the guy who is profiled to be a 14-year-old Brazilian turning 15, is 180 centimeters tall, has a little sister named Maria, and is into Taylor Swift.
Is this the first GD Sona in Geometry Dash?
He unfortunately has a job in the fast food industry.
And he's already having it rough.
They really did profile him well, because I could imagine seeing this type of guy in a public Geometry Dash Discord server. His levels were named after the digits of pi, so if you notice that, you have another way to remember the digits. Unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end, and when Vibrant teased about it being a group, well, 2 hours later the Joe Brown team outed themselves. What a day to be alive to witness all this. There was also Quora, which isn't really a creating team, so they doesn't really technically count under this video, but it was a fake South Korean player who became infamous in 2016. It was a social experiment thought of by Wabbit, Mafiwi, Bakurin, and Gygas, which then they invited Quasar, Nycro, and Wabusha. It was kind of funny until it ended up going in flames. To keep it brief, Oros leaked the whole thing to the community due to arguing with male Veronica in the group for 3 days. Jesus.
Hey guys, sorry for the long MIA, just had to deal with the Roman Empire. How have you all been for the past 3 days? This is just completely unreasonable. It's just horrible. You're not letting me say that. Well,
RobTopArchiver is a quite recent team and their levels are real bangers. They made copies of RobTop's main levels, preserving the history of what RobTop would do if he wasn't shackled to making RobTop levels. They even made it into the 2023 awards for Best Insane Demon with Jumper Copy. If this was actually RobTop, he could have handed himself an award. They also participated in the NCS Gauntlet with Invincible Copy, which looks really cool. On the side, there were the smaller teams, the ones who made only one level, only because it's pretty hard to keep it going sometimes. Function Squad only released one level called Dreams, and GD Heroes Rising of made Freedom. We almost forgot about TCTeam. They were really huge back then and had levels like Titan Complex, Quadriga Mode, Glitch Memories, and Codependence. They were the equivalent of Team M2 in mid 2.1. Glitch Memories and Codependence were so hyped up back then, and I really remember just wondering what could be in the Clubstep remake. And the promise of the hardest 2-player level? Well, that was actually really interesting. It's a very cool team that we almost forgot. So now, what about the teams today? Well, we can talk about Cherry Team. I know they're quite controversial, but I prefer to look at their work since I want to recognize the effort and passion put behind it. Their level output is genuinely impressive. Seriously, you could ask nearly any GD player who's involved in the community what creator team comes to their mind first, and they would most likely say Cherry Team. They are the most prominent and successful example of a team that I can think of today, and well, I gotta commend them for that. Waterfall got verified about 5 or 6 months ago, and it's certainly amazing. There's so much passion put into this theme that I don't see all too often. I have my own thoughts about Cosmos Unleashed, where the decoration is really good, but the gameplay style is just kind of plain. I know it's based off of Cosmos, and the gameplay really makes sense for a top 1, but it's a missed opportunity for variety. You think Geostorm would count, but actually no. It started as a clan and their levels are really just a result of some people within the group just wanting to build together. I'll still mention their levels since they're still pretty cool. It was founded all the way back in December 7, 2014, which makes it one of the most oldest really active groups in Geometry Dash. If you hop on the wiki page, you can see the extensiveness of the current and former member list, which is honestly, it goes for miles. They made Flap, Zap, Scrap, and Crud, all of which are top-notch quality levels. The one I actually mostly enjoy is Flap, despite being pretty terrible at it. It feels like everyone had fun building on it and it was just merged really well for what the concept was. I remember the hype for some of these levels, especially Zap. It was something you had to be there for. Just knowing that the most famous clan in Geometry Dash was actually getting together to do something serious other than being famous, I suppose, was exciting. APTeam is another well-known team. The Apocalyptic Trilogy just got recently rated as of February 2025. That level has been in the works since 2016 and oh my god. There is also APTeam But Awesome, which I previously mentioned while talking about Sonic Wave remakes. They released a new level called Gooberland and it's just as unhinged as their previous level.
This might be the first time I've seen the Steam Joy emoticon actually be used.
TeamTCM is a pretty recent team, and I played the level Sky Strike when it was on the feature tab. It's quite fun and they've really got potential. The drop is sick and I don't think I've ever seen someone execute the Sky theme like that. TMCO is another team and they're planning to make the top 1 platformer called Dead of Night. This may be the most ambitious level I've ever seen, with so many creators working on it for exactly a year from 19th of January 2024 to 19th of January 2025. It had to be merged 3 times because of floating point errors, which for the coding folks, that sounds like it's probably hell. It's an hour-long showcase and it was meant to be a short extreme platformer at first from the description. Somehow Colic made Fortnite in this and it works? TeamTCM is probably one of my favorites right now just because they have their own style of making levels and it really shows. You can tell from the thumbnail showcases on their channel and it's really well done. I highly recommend to check out all this stuff like Burning Sands, Conclusive Journey, and the Firebird. And what is really neat that some of the creators got together to make a fan game called Geometry-Odyssey. It has original comics, a ton of new levels, new stuff, all to a high quality standard. This may be one of the best unique teams I've ever seen in Geometry Dash. I also forgot to mention this too, despite them being inactive. Hyperfire Creators was another team that was kinda big with levels like Pinball Panic and Alt F4. They had an entire WordPress website and the WordPress feel really shows. Seeing who was involved in this team is more surprising as it does feature people who are pretty well known in this community like Prism Dash and Slim Jim. They also featured the team members' levels, which is pretty neat, and Zyden League or X League. There isn't much on this other than Hara being in it and Vibrant telling me it was one of the first creator teams. They do have a Twitter account but it was only active in 2016. If you know more about this team, feel free to say something below. We're near the end and there's still too many teams, so instead I'm just gonna... Feel free to pause and look for a bit. There's a few funny team names like TeamTCM, Group Gooners, Green Pickles, and Hummus. Did they just name themselves after food?
Oh my goodness, there are so many creator teams and I probably haven't even named all of them. There are probably about 50 to 100 decently sized well-known teams and probably hundreds of smaller, more niche teams that we just don't know about. There's just so many. So why are there so many? What makes people actually get involved in creator teams, and as an outsider, why do we watch them so intently? Well, to give an answer, it helps build an identity for yourself, and especially getting involved, especially if you're an up-and-coming creator.
It's really cool to be part of something and all of us can relate to that, and it feels better when it helps impact the game in a really fun or game-changing way. It's nice being part of an environment where you can band together as creators and also be friends. Of course, this does apply to typical collabs, but the point is that it invites a pretty welcoming feel, which helps build the community we have today through these micro-communities. The line between creator teams and just people who participate in a mega collab with the same people can be very blurred. It's a you'll know it when you see it or hear it from them type of feeling. Like Down Under, which is a World Gauntlet contest level I was involved in, and it was made by Australian friends rather than a team, despite being able to totally act like one. It's all up to how the creators within it view the group, and being an outsider, more levels are getting released, and potentially levels that shake the creating scene as well as levels that may cater to your own taste, so it's always a good idea to follow them. However, there isn't much activity from creator teams outside of the most infamous ones or big ones. The only active ones that come to my mind are Cherry Team and TeamTCM, and maybe Deeper Space last year. If I look at the feature tab, it's rare to actually see a level from a creator team. It's mostly solos and collabs. Which begs the question, why? Well, not only is it hard enough to make a level by yourself, you have to deal with being a leader and managing people. Those are tough skills to learn at a young age, and especially in the context of Geometry Dash's main demographic. A lot of teams are made by younger people, like from the range of 14 to 20 or older. As you can expect, it gets rocky when everyone is trying to learn how to manage and act in a creator team, which is why some go inactive or some dissolve. So is the creator team economy thriving? Well, if you look at the numbers and how many I listed, yeah. If you go beyond that, not really. When we were in 2.0 or early 2.1, the entire community discussion was dominated by creator teams, or people who got together and what they would do next. APTeam, TM2, and even normal collaboration like Exasperation and Bloodlust got people excited, but nowadays it's mostly favourable towards solos from the creators you love. There is no category for best mega collab in the awards anymore. The last time it was mentioned was in 2022. This may have happened from an overall shift in attitude stemming from most mega collabs that get well known happen to be really hard. And there was probably too many of them. Not only that, creators started getting more skilled enough to make levels that could stand amongst creator teams' levels in terms of popularity, impact, and quality, diminishing, well, creator teams. But we're still getting creator teams organized, and honestly, the golden era might be behind us, but we can't witness new levels only possible by pulling together a ton of creators' different perspectives and styles.
So that was creator teams in Geometry Dash. I still need to recruit more people for Team Single, and damn it, I just missed Valentine's Day. It would have been the perfect opportunity to get creators who are single, as in they're not part of any teams. Perhaps I should make it more enticing. If you want to get people and friends to join, you gotta give them benefits. I really hope this sends the right message.